Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Small Caps. I'm Peter Capsanis. Well, iron ore and lithium might dominate the news headlines for different reasons, but one Australian company is busy keeping its eye on the prize, undeterred by any global economic cycles or anomalies. I'm talking about BlackRock Mining's Graphite Project in Tanzania. The company has just finished securing a major finance deal, which includes the Development Bank of Southern Africa. To tell us more, I'm joined by BKT's CEO and Managing Director, John de Vries, who's all the way in Johannesburg. John, good to chat to you.
Good morning, Peter. It's good to chat to Small Caps today.
Look, we'll get into your $179 million agreement shortly, but tell me about the project. It sits quite on a very generous ore body. Tell me a bit about it. Tell us why it's so special.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at any project, Peter, starting off with a world-class ore body is a definite advantage. And Mahenge continues to differentiate itself as a project in that it is 70% large flake, 30% fines. So while we've seen over the last 18 months or so a fairly competitive market in the fines portion, what we've seen is large flake prices have actually rallied. So we're seeing our basket, that's the average concentrate price we receive, actually going up, even though we're in the middle of this very tense lithium-ion battery material supply chain development around China. So I think what makes it different is, this isn't all EV, this is industrial minerals. We're able to connect this thing to grid power. It projects us to the bottom of the cost curve, and it's big. Size really, really matters, because when you've got your material sitting in a customer's supply chain, they want as little variability as possible. So they're looking at big and homogeneous. Mahenge ticks all of those boxes. And fortunately, what we've been able to do over the last couple of weeks is POSCO have now crossed over and become binding as a cornerstone for the equity round, and we've secured the debt. So I think as people sit there and go, yeah, everybody says their ore body's special, the reality is, while we're saying it's special, you've got POSCO and the banks who have spent an extraordinary amount of time doing DD, also thinking it's special enough to lend us the money and secure an investment.
All right, there's a bit to unpack there, John. I mean, we'll try and break it down there for anyone that's not so familiar with the project and the finance associated with it. And indeed, I guess the purity of the resource, which is probably I want to sort of dive deeper in. Your competitive advantage, and you touched on it, but would you say your competitive advantage lies in the purity of the ore body and the resource?
It lies in three areas. It's a high purity resource we know outperforms other brands on the market. Evidence for that, POSCO have signed a contract with us. POSCO are investing in us, right? They haven't invested in anybody else. Next competitive advantage is the large flake. As I said, we've got a basket price that even at the bottom of the cycle brings in $2 of revenue for every dollar of cost. It's a pretty unusual ore body to be in. And the final part about that, because we have got good transport infrastructure and we can interconnect in with the Tanzanian power grid, our energy costs are modest. And that puts us at the bottom of the cost curve. So we've got revenue at the top of the cost curve, costs at the bottom of the cost curve, and a pretty big deposit that we know is attractive to customers in between those 2 points.
Tell me about the project area, because, and again, you've touched on it. I reckon you're underselling it a bit. The connection to the hydropower, that's a big plus for you.
Yeah, look, it's a massive plus, and people need to see this as more than just electricity. The first thing is that because it is hydro, we're getting power come in that has very little embedded carbon in it. So as we continue to move down the curve of differentiating between products that incur quite a significant carbon footprint, products that incur a much smaller carbon footprint, we're able to differentiate ourselves there. That'll give us access to markets. I think that's a pretty important point there. The other really important point about this power line is that when we are dealing with development finance institutions such as the IDC and DBSA, They're looking at more than just a mine. They're going, what can you do for the nation? And we're building this 70-kilometre, 220 kV power line from Ifakara to Mahenge, and that provides the opportunity for an industrial base at Mahenge, not only us, but other projects as well. So there's a number of projects that are queued up, waiting for that power line to be constructed and energised.
All right. So you mentioned POSCO. They're a major cornerstone, you said, but they're a Korean steel conglomerate. So them buying into the BKT story, it's a big plus for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So POSCO is really interesting approach. What they're doing is, as a steel manufacturer, they're pretty close to the auto industry, particularly in Korea. So they've seen this energy transition pick up and start to go through their customer supply chain, and on the back of that, POSCO have developed a new division, the Future Materials division, and that is pretty much trying to be a Bunnings for EV manufacturers. So anybody looking for reagents to build a battery, cathode, anode, lithium, etc., POSCO is stepping in there with their Future Materials division and being a supplier to suppliers again. That global supply chain. So for POSCO to come in there and endorse our product when they really could have had to pick of whoever they want, they've endorsed our product by coming in and signing an offtake agreement for Module 1 and Module 2, and also committing a $40 million equity position in the construction round.
Well, it's kudos to you and the company you're running there, obviously. The significance of this $179 million deal with the Development Corporation of South Africa, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, or IDC, and Tanzanian lender CRDB Bank, which is a subsidiary of the Bank of Tanzania. There's a few national stakeholders here, John, which tells me that it's obviously, and you touched on it, it's clearly a project of much national significance.
Mahenge stands out as being significant on the geopolitical front for a number of reasons. Obviously, reason number one is the alignment we have with POSCO, who is an anode producer in their own right. So this will be a large-scale ex-China anode supply chain. So we do that. Within the financing consortium, I think it's important that we're dealing with a scenario of Africa financing Africa. We see a lot of strong rhetoric coming out of other areas, Europe, North America, about the need to support an energy transition, but the Europeans and the Americans are significant by their absence in this financing. This is Africa financing Africa. And it gets back, the reason it works is, the banks are looking at how do they play the energy transition, and they like the fact that, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. And the other one is that, the power line delivers not only energy for our project, but it becomes a regional platform, and that becomes well within the development finance institution mandate to want to support the development through that method.
So what's the significance of this funding now? Does it mean that you can make next steps? Are you closer to construction then?
Yeah. Look, the next steps for us is we've talked about a partner process where we sell down a part of the holding company between BlackRock and the operations here. I'm running that to ground at the moment. Obviously, now we've got the debt and POSCO sorted out. The fuse for partners in that process to make a decision has lit. So we want to facilitate them to make a decision as soon as we possibly can, and then that tells us what we need to be doing on the market in terms of the main funding round.
So I can't get you to...
Once we get through that, we're into pouring concrete.
I appreciate you've got your cornerstone partners in place, and you've done this raise now with those national and state banks and investments or investors, John. But what's the selling point to the retail investors, if you like? Is it the prospectivity, the returns? Are they all overwhelmingly positive? Is that what sets this project out compared to others? What do you think is the unicorn in all of this?
Yeah. Okay. So why should people buy BKT? People should buy BKT because the business model we're doing takes a lot of the development risks away that typically impact juniors. We've made a deliberate decision not to go all of supply chain. We're not trying to make anode. We're not trying to make intermediate product. That is difficult. It is hard. What we've done is working with people who know what they're doing in that space, and we go, right, we will work with the supply chain. So it's point number one. So that gives us a position where we're going to get funded. We're going to go into construction straight away. We've got a customer who's going to buy our material. That gives us cash flow, important. But what it also does is it gives us market volume and branding. So once we've got volume and branding and the product works, when that customers want more material, they'll come knocking on our door, and the 4-module strategy really begins to kick in here. So this is a market that has a very, very significant price for first mover advantage, right? And what we've been able to do here with the funding approach is get customer endorsement, get financier endorsement on a project that benefits significantly from being a first mover. So we put that together. That's why investors should step into BKT, because at some point in time, the EV transition is occurring. It's a rate-driven thing. It's not if, it's when. And we've got a choice: is we can source 100% of our material from China, and that experiment's been tried and it didn't end well. So the challenge now is to develop a supply chain that is ex-China, that is economic. And that's a pretty important word here, in that our product is competitive in the market on today's pricing. I don't need a magical formula. I don't need people willing to pay more for their cars for the luxury of having a non-Chinese anode. Our stuff is economic today, and that's a really important consideration. That's why Mahenge's bankable, and that's why Mahenge's investable. All
right, I hear you loud and clear, John. Jump on the BKT train is what you're saying. Look, we appreciate your time today, all the way from Joburg, and we'll keep an eye out for the next development and the news as it happens. So good luck moving forward, and we hope to catch up with you soon, John.
Cheers.